This is my top 10 list. I am going to have this PowerPoint deck to the school so you can get it. But we talked about visiting campus. So to summarize, if you're visiting during the summer months, that's fantastic. Visit. But understand that if you're visiting a college during the summer, you're not getting the full experience, right? Visit if you need to understand what that college is going to look like in a normal day. How many people right now know they want to go to a big school? How many people want a small school? How many people don't care about the size of the campus? Okay. Location, size, opportunity. Raise your hand if you know exactly what you want to do when you get to college. You know what major you want. Okay. Raise your hand if you don't know what major you want. Okay? Raise your hand if you're not going to raise your hand no matter what I say. Bunch of smart Alex. Got it. So, let's do a couple quick facts. One, the most popular major in the United States for students applying to college, not just at Mason, across the country, is undeclared. More than 1/3 of the U.S. population has applied undeclared over the last 2 years. It is okay to not know what you want to do. If you know what you want to do, the average college student is changing their major 2 to 3 times before they graduate. Change is okay. But you have to know that at 17, 18 years old, you don't have to have the full picture yet. Have an idea, right? When you're applying, apply with purpose. Don't apply to a school and pay $70, $50, $60, $100 for an application fee if you know there is no scenario that you would be happy at the institution you're applying to, right? Apply with purpose. But you can only apply with purpose if you've gone through this process and you've started asking questions. There are a lot of ways to stress yourself out. But if you ask questions, you focus on you. You are the star of your own show. But if you don't get behind the steering wheel and drive this, no one's going to do it for you, right? This year, to stress you out, this year, Mason's acceptance rate was over 80%. The average GPA for kids from Northern Virginia applying to Mason was a 3.98. That's insane, right? The average. So you have to ask yourself, transcript, standardized test scores, involvement, letters of recommendation, chatting when the guy that admits you or denies you to Mason instead of paying attention to what he says. All of those things matter. If you have questions, ask them. But if you have a couple quick ones, I can do them now before we head out to the panel. 3.98 is a win. Other questions? Now, raise your hand if you're below a 3.98. Fun fact. How many of you just stressed out a little bit when you heard that GPA from Mason? Okay? So, lesson 1. Don't just take what I said and then stress yourself out without asking context. Don't stress yourself out without saying, well, Pat, is there a minimum GPA to apply? Yesterday, and I mean yesterday, I admitted a 3.01. Wow, look how quiet we got. I admitted a 3.01. The student moves around a bunch. Their freshman year was bad. Their sophomore year, they got a little bit better. But they were in English language programs. They were transitioning into the American curriculum. Junior year, they excelled. Senior year, they're a straight A student taking challenging courses. They improved over time, and they allowed themselves the opportunity to submit mid-year grades. That's a student I'll admit. The number doesn't matter. It's how you get to that number, and again, how you fall into a process and what major you're applying to. Ask questions. Don't hear something and make assumptions and then write yourself out. Ask questions in this process, have fun with it, and I'll see you guys in that Virginia panel. Thank you guys.
Real quickly, Mr. Martin and I have about 8 minutes to get a 20-minute presentation done, so we just want to talk about the role the Marshall counselors are going to play with you in the college application process. Real quickly, before we get started, Junior Focus Day is always a day that kind of kicks off our freshman transition program for senior year. So again, that's just going to be if you're interested in a unique leadership opportunity and some community service hours and going back to freshman year and time goes fast and now you're about to be the wisest students in the building. If you want to impart that wisdom onto freshmen, you are going to get an email to apply for freshman transition program later today. It's going to be the first of a couple emails you get today. All right, so again, the details of FTP will go ahead and be in an email, but check that.
There's a lot of them.
Check that and apply if you are interested, and we're going to probably be doing it through Learn or Advisory or something like that. Just so you know the time commitment, it's 2 days. 2 days before we get back to school with the training and you guys work the freshman orientation, and then it's 2 days a week where we train you for lessons and you guys are given classroom lessons. So now, next slide, Mr. Martin. So we're going to talk about what the application process looks like at Marshall. Mr. Money really touched on most of the essential stuff already. We just want to, again, explain how it's going to look on our end. So on this next slide, what we like to do is use the analogy of 4 buckets, okay? So as you're applying to college, we have 4 buckets that we kind of tell our students. One of them is the testing bucket. One of them is the applications and essays bucket, the transcripts and recommendation bucket, and the financial aid bucket. So in theory here, if you kind of close your eyes and you're a senior in the fall walking down Senior Road, if you're carrying all 4 of these buckets at a time, it's kind of heavy. So what we talk about is starting to unload these buckets now, or doing the things you need so that you can pass these buckets on to others and focus on certain buckets. So again, if that makes sense, I'm going to real quickly fly through what each of these buckets looks like and here at Marshall. So go ahead, Mr. Martin. So the testing bucket, a show of hands, how many of you have either signed up or are scheduled to take an SAT or ACT? All right, so very good. So again, in an ideal timeline, if you're finishing Algebra 2 this year or have completed it a while ago, you guys are ready to take that test. Colleges often superscore this, meaning if you take this test more than once, they're going to take your highest score from each section. But again, the timeline is you want to get this done in the spring or in the summer. I know there's a July ACT and an August SAT. And then if you need to improve those scores, you have the fall of your senior year. Now, the good thing is, since the pandemic, probably over half of the colleges are test optional right now. So you may or may not need this test. We kind of encourage, it's a good idea to try to take it, get it out of the way in case you need that score. And then it's just notice we have the sending of scores, and that's going to happen during your senior year. You're going to be responsible for that. If you want to learn more about this, we have an SAT, ACT prep session when we break out in a few minutes. This is going to be the bucket you spend most of your time on, and this is the applications and essay bucket. I know here at Mr. Money talked about essays already. If you guys are using Common App or Coalition, those essay prompts are already available. You can start working on your essays over the summer. And again, we'll have essay prep in the fall in the College and Career Center if you want your essays evaluated. I know Mr. Money talked about finding someone to do it. We have people that come in and read letters for a living that can help you with your letters. Where do you want to apply? This is where you should start coming up with your list of colleges you're thinking about, ideally 5 to 10 schools. He already talked about early decision, early action, Common App Coalition. So this is going to be where we want you to spend most of your time on. And we have sessions today that talk about the college essay, a winning college app session, which I really encourage you all to attend as one of your 3 if you're thinking about applying to a 4-year school. And we have stuff on Common App Bootcamp. Financial aid, this is just We have a financial aid night here next fall. This is a bucket we really want you to sort of pass on to your parents. The only thing we'll say right now, or the two things I'll say is, Mr. Humphreys does a great job in the College and Career Center. Kind of, if you have finance questions, definitely go and visit. And then Mr. Money also touched on the FAFSA, which you can start October 1st. If you think your family needs the money or not, we still encourage you to do this FAFSA, because this is how colleges will make decisions on merit-based and financial-based need, and it makes you eligible for grants, which are free money, loans from the government, which are much better rates than you get from like banks, and like programs like work study where you're working off parts of your tuition. And then this last bucket is what Mr. Martin's going to take the mic here in a second talk about, but this is the bucket we want you to hand off to us in student services, okay? Working closely with your counselor and stuff. He's going to talk about what the senior information packet is in a second. Mr. Money already touched on teacher letters of recommendation. Some colleges are going to require teacher letters, some won't. So just be kind of cognizant as you're looking at your list, you know, if the colleges you are applying to are going to even require that at all. And then again, this transcript request form is going to be big, but this is more so in the fall, and you'll indicate your deadline, type of decision, and portal to use. What I'll say is Winning College Apps again touches on all of this, so we really encourage you to attend that one. And yes, so I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic on to Mr. Martin. The last point I will make, though, is this is a lot of information. This is just an intro today. Your counselors are going to be emailing you every week or two in the fall. Get in the habit of checking your email now. You know, we're going to take care of you. All right? Here you go.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about college recommendations. Now, the previous presenter talked about basically a teacher recommendation. A couple of things I want you guys to remember is there's two different types of recommendations. You're going to have a counselor recommendation and you're going to have a teacher recommendation. Okay, we're going to write the counselor recommendation for you. Remember that the recommendation that we write for you as counselors is more of a holistic recommendation. It's going